So, when it comes to Batman, there seems to be more and more discourse from the fan base online each and every day, talking about the possibility of folding Robert Pattinson's Batman into James Gunn's new DCU, with David Corenswet playing Superman. In this video, we break down 5 positive reasons why that would be a great idea. So let's jump into it, let's give our thoughts along the way, and let's see what kind of trouble we can get into with this topic. So, this comes to us from comicbookmovie.com. 5 reasons Robert Pattinson's The Batman should be the DCU's Caped Crusader. So there's a lot of people that really love the idea of folding Robert Pattinson's Batman into the new DCU, but then there's a lot of other people on the other side of the fan base that feel it wouldn't be a good fit. It's more of a grounded character. It wouldn't make sense to put him with kind of like gods and stuff like that, because this Robert Pattinson Batman is very, very grounded, and having him come up against characters like Superman or Wonder Woman, it just wouldn't make sense for this type of Batman. So there's arguments on both sides, but like I said, for this video, we're mainly talking about the 5 positive points. I'm not going to read this verbatim. Let's go through and just pick out the most important points and kind of give feedback on this, guys. So in this feature, we're diving into why Pattinson joining the DCU would be what's best for the Batman franchise and Gunn's reboot plans. Nothing is confirmed at this stage, but for us, the sooner Pattinson shares the screen with David Corenswet's Superman, the better. Well, mostly. So let's start off with this. Number 5, it's an easy retcon. So despite being a reboot, the DCU is picking and choosing actors and characters from the past, including John Cena's Peacemaker. That was a fantastic idea. John Cena as Peacemaker was great. His series was absolutely fantastic. Viola Davis as Amanda Waller, again, she did fantastic as that character. As a result, it won't be remotely difficult to make it so that Robert Pattinson's Batman is the new shared world's Dark Knight. There's nothing in the Batman to contradict what Gunn is planning, retroactively making it a critical and commercial hit like this for the first DCU movie would get the franchise off to the right start alongside next summer's Superman. Yeah, that makes a fantastic point here. To have Robert Pattinson's Batman jump over to the DC Cinematic Universe, there was nothing in the movie to contradict what James Gunn is doing with his new universe. There's nothing in there that restricts it from joining David Corenswet's Superman on screen. So, you know, having that kind of retcon of bringing the Batman over to the DC Cinematic Universe, there's no issues there, no restrictions, nothing to contradict that move, to have that Batman appear in James Gunn's DCU. So that's the first great point, I think, there. So moving on to this next, number 4. Does anyone want a Batman movie from Andy Muschietti? Obviously, for those of you who may not know, Andy Muschietti, he was the director on the Flash movie. I think that the Flash movie was absolutely, tragically, awfully bad. Everything about it, the script, the writing, the acting, the CGI was so damn bad, it took me out of the movie. And I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. So, this has disaster written all over it, and Muschietti won't have nostalgia to heavily rely on with a new Batman. He's just not right fit, and Gunn can't risk dropping the ball on this character this important with a mediocre filmmaker. I'm not sure I'd call him a mediocre filmmaker. The guy, you know, he's a good filmmaker in his own right, but when it came to making The Flash, he did an awful job. The only thing that was positive was the nostalgia with Michael Keaton's Batman. If you took that out of the movie, then it would have been even worse. And like it says here, he doesn't have nostalgia to bank on so heavily if he was to do a Batman movie. The guy is just not a right fit. After him bombing with directing The Flash, having him anywhere near a Batman project would be a really, really bad idea. So, yeah, nobody wants a Batman movie from Andy Muschietti. Number 3, it's confusing for regular moviegoers. Absolutely. I keep saying this ad nauseum to like all my friends and, you know, all the people that I talk to about this. Having 2 different Batmans running around on screen simultaneously, the everyday movie-going audience who don't really, you know, stick to this news, having 2 Batmans in 2 different universes from DC running around, DC is kind of competing with itself, so it doesn't make sense from a business perspective. And then from an audience perspective, it could be confusing having 2 Batmans, you know, which Batman is in the DCU, which Batman isn't, you know, why are we rebooting another Batman when we already have a perfectly good one over here with Robert Pattinson? It kind of gets confusing as to what is going on, and yeah, I can see from a movie-going perspective why people would kind of be confused about it. So, while moviegoers are smarter than most studios seem to think, it's still confusing to have 2 different versions of Batman on screen at the same time. Sure, we all know that Elseworlds means We all know what Elseworlds mean, sorry, but does your dad? How about your sister or your grandparents? Yeah, this is exactly what we're talking about. For people like us who are in these film movie circles, who keep up to date with this news, who read the comic books, we know what Elseworlds are. We can separate the DCU Batman from Robert Pattinson's Batman. But if you're an everyday going cinema person and you don't know the ins and outs of the DC cinematic universe, you don't know which Batman you're supposed to be following, which Batman is separate, which Batman is in DCU, it can easily get confusing, you know, just for normal fans who aren't that kind of clued into the information. So, critics and fans alike will also compare the two franchises, and essentially having them compete feels like a recipe for disaster. Again, why would DC compete with its own characters? Having two Batmen running around, you know, if one starts to do better than the other, then you're going to be comparing the worst one to the better one, and there's going to be those comparisons. There's going to be two different types of DC fans forming about, you know, which Batman they like better, and it's just not going to look good. The optics on it just don't look good whatsoever. We just can't see how the DCU would be able to make its Batman that's different to the one played by Pattinson. That's the thing as well. How do you make it different enough to kind of justify having two Batmen running around? They would have to be vastly different types of characters. Let's just read this bit as well. So, releasing Batman Part 2 and then following it up 2 years later with The Brave and the Bold about a different Caped Crusader who's raising his son as Robin runs the risk of causing any number of headaches. Absolutely it does. I mean, like I said, again, DC trying to compete with itself by releasing two different versions of the same character. And again, you would have to make them vastly different in order to not confuse the fan base as well. So, number 2, The Batman is easily the best DCEU era movie. So, the DC Extended Universe wasn't as bad as some people would lead you to believe. I really enjoyed the DC Extended Universe. Probably the only movie I didn't like was Birds of Prey, but pretty much other than that, I pretty much liked everything else. But let's face it, that era of storytelling didn't exactly deliver a long list of beloved movies. Wonder Woman is likely to be the only one remembered as a true classic when all is said and done. That's absolute garbage. I don't believe that whatsoever. Batman v Superman, in my opinion, is an absolute masterpiece. I love that movie. Looking outside the DCEU, we have Joker, but that divided opinions and has been somewhat tainted by Joker Folie à Deux. Ultimately, The Batman remains easily the best movie released before the DCU relaunch. With that in mind, why wouldn't DC Studios put the spotlight on Matt Reeves' Batverse? Not only does the franchise have a lot of goodwill, the Penguin has been a hit with fans and critics, and Gunn and Peter Safran's involvement with the series has been widely publicised. That's the thing, we have an established Batman now who everybody loves. The box office for that movie was great, critics love it, audience loves it. It's been now established, and now we have a spin-off series of the Penguin, and there's rumours saying that they're looking to do more villain spin-offs like Harvey Dent, and potentially other characters, maybe Poison Ivy, maybe Harley Quinn, something like that, within that kind of Penguin and Batman universe. So why not just keep Pattinson around, have him as the DCU Batman, and yeah, it makes sense as he's already established. So number 1, what this means for the DCU. So look, if we get our way, the Batman is incorporated into the DCU, there are going to be some big changes. Gunn will likely have to scrap plans to bring Damian Wayne into the fold and hold off on introducing the Bat family, which may upset some fans. Reeves will also need to be open to incorporating a wider universe into stories, but can still keep this franchise relatively standalone. Superman doesn't need to frequently drop in and out of Gotham, and can be a city which is patrolled by just one lone vigilante. As for Pattinson, it will have to be convinced to make at least the odd appearance in other projects. However, Batman doesn't have to be a member of the Justice League and can be used very sparingly, treated as more of an urban myth than a publicly known superhero. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to have Batman, you know, popping up in the DC universe from James Gunn, but he's going to be only there sparingly, he's not going to be there much, he's not going to be in the Justice League, it doesn't seem to fit, in my opinion, because they're already forming the Justice League in that very first Superman movie. We have Green Lantern, we have Hawkgirl, we have Mr. Terrific, we have Superman, and it looks like there's, you know, a form of the Justice League already in that first Superman movie. So if we're going to incorporate Batman, but he's not going to be in the Justice League, it kind of doesn't really fit, in my opinion. I get what this article is trying to say, that you could have Batman in there, but keep him as part of the DCU, but keep him very kind of standalone and kind of isolated, even though he will be interacting with those characters from time to time. But does that ultimately work? Will fans like that he's not going to be there as often as he should be? He's not going to be in the Justice League? that doesn't really work in my opinion with what James Gunn is trying to build. But I can understand why a lot of fans would see how that works, that we're going to have Robert Pattinson's Batman there, but he's going to be used very sparingly. He's going to be kind of isolated to Gotham in his own kind of universe, but still going to be interacting with those DCU characters from time to time. Can that work? I'm not really sure it can, but I'm sure a lot of fans would be happy with that kind of, that kind of retcon of Robert Pattinson's Batman. But yeah, there's 5 different reasons there, guys, as to why, the Batman could fit into James Gunn's DCU. So I kind of throw it off to you. What do you think about these 5 points? Let's just summarize it. So it's an easy retcon, number 5. Number 4, no one wants Andy Muschietti to be directing another Batman movie, The Brave and the Bold. So it's easier just to use Robert Pattinson. Number 3, it's confusing for regular moviegoers to have 2 different Batmen running around in the DC cinematic universe. 2, the Batman is easily the best DCEU era movie. Obviously, it's a great springboard to launch the DCU, having it as the first official James Gunn DC cinematic universe. You could retcon that movie, the Batman, easily to do that. And then number 1, what it means for the DCU. Having Batman, obviously, having an established Batman that people already love, it means that it would be a great springboard into the DC cinematic universe, having an established character that people already love. So that kind of summarizes the 5 points there as to why it would be a great idea to use Robert Pattinson as the DCU's established Batman already, without having to reboot The Brave and the Bold, having another Batman, having 2 Batman kind of running around confusing people. So guys, I throw it off to you. What do you think about these 5 points? Do you have any points that you would love to add on to this? Do you think it's a good idea, a bad idea to have Robert Pattinson in the DCU as Batman? Or do you think they should continue with having Andy Muschietti reboot the Dark Knight again with Brave and the Bold like they're already planning to? Let me know your thoughts, comments, and opinions down below, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.